Friedrich das Schuppen. There was a point when the streets of Great Britain were littered with British cars and proud British drivers driving their British cars. The pride of joy was once an Austin, a Rover, dare I say it, even something from British Leyland. Yeah, but those times have gone, haven't they? No, they really did go. They went quite a long time ago as well. In the 90s, suddenly people discovered that they could buy an Audi. They aspired to something that was made properly in the first place. Not just something that would start like a Japanese car, but would actually remain in one piece 10 or 15 years after they'd actually bought it. It was a revolution. Imagine that, having a car that would remain in one piece after 15 years. This one's even older. The honest truth is though, if I made a list of my least favourite cars, Audi would be in there. Not necessarily right at the top, but it would definitely be in the top 5. So f you for being popular. Now this car, in case you haven't already gathered or haven't looked at the thumbnail, is an Audi A6, the estate version, which they give a fancy name for. From the front, it's very difficult really to spot that it is an A6 and not an A4, or even if you get really close, even an A3. It is smooth lines all the way down, and what looks like a really tidy moustache at the front, where the wing comes all the way down to here. Metal all the way to the bottom, where it meets that bit of plastic bit there. And the same jobby at the back. The rear quarter goes all the way to the bottom. It doesn't just cut off where it has a wing, so it has this kind of almost stylized Mexican moustache about it. Do I like the Audi A6 Avant? Yeah, actually I quite do. I do quite like it, but I didn't really like it too much when it was new because I thought it looked all a bit plain and a bit old-fashioned. Isn't that odd? In the late 90s when this car was designed, it didn't look that modern. But now it doesn't look that dated. And that's because Audi did the brilliantly clever trick of not doing too much style. Style dates. Lack of style doesn't. So what we have here is basically just a very smooth lined, understated, elegant estate car that does its job very, very well. And that is why they became so successful. Sort of. You see, there was a time when Audi were bought by people who had a great deal of common sense, but then they became fashionable, and with fashion, even though they weren't really pasting it all over the outside, you end up with a different customer. I'll come back to that afterwards. And the styling of this car is definitely not something divisive. It kind of doesn't have enough style for you to be offended by it, and it doesn't have enough style for you to be excited either. There is nothing going on with this car that makes me surprised that the car's owner can't really be too bothered to wash it. And he hasn't either. Look at it. I mean, it's utterly filthy. That's grounding dirt on the bonnet there, and all around the corners of the windscreen, and just where it's gathered and got stuck everywhere, stuck next to the really purposeful roof rails. The bird poo that's left there will remain. The green stuff along the rear window seal will remain until it becomes something much more interesting to someone who is, after all, a moss enthusiast. I could continue to walk around this car and point out all the bits that haven't been washed, but what's the point? Because it is consistently filthy, and it is exactly that why I reckon that so many Audis were silver, because silver is the colour of can't be bothered to wash a car. It's not going to make it look any better, so let's not bother. But now let's look at something I really do like about it. A lack of styling is something I do like, because this is the kind of car you could just use and not really worry about it. But that means you can concentrate more on the actual important stuff, like having a little light there, having an ashtray in the back, having a pocket that pulls out. That is nice. I do like that. If you're going to treat your passengers as grown-ups by giving them an ashtray, give them somewhere to sit as well. And this actually has somewhere good. Look, I'm so comfortable. There's so much room in the back, and there's headroom as well. Yeah, I wonder if these work. It does have quite a bit of nice German attention to detail everywhere you look. Some of it may be showing its age, but it is an old car. And listen to this door shut sound. Very, very thunky. I might add that I like the colour. I do like the colour, although it's not a standard Audi colour, is it? I mean, it is, but you don't see many in this colour at all. That works. And in the back of here, well, continuing the tradition of making sure it's all filthy, we find welly boots. We find some things, grotty things, the kind of grotty things you would expect to find in the back of a dirty estate car owned by a man who does gardening and moss. Anyway, the boot is huge, and it has a light, and it has carpet, and it has things like that. Into the front, well, we have 4 electric windows. We have the same kind of pull-out door pockets, which I do really like, and the continuation of the green interior. Doesn't have leather seats though, but it does have a carpet, and this is, well, the basic model, except it's not, because if you've ignored the badge on the back, you will get inside and spot that word there that says Quattro, which means, of course, 4-wheel drive. The dashboard will pass the solidity test. Cup holder that works. That's a lovely little tray. I don't really know what that's for, but a small velvet lined tray, big enough to put small items in. Nice press feel, nice button. Well, they're all right. These buttons aren't quite as good as I would like them to be. The gear knob appears to be suggesting that you go that way for first, that way for second. Oh, and that's a lovely smooth engine, isn't it? Now, what's that telling me? It's telling me, by the looks of it, that coolant is squirting out of the expansion tank. 170,000 miles, and oh, look at that. That there is telling me that the alternator is fine, at least. I've just opened the bonnet, and we're about to have a look at the 2.4 litre V6 engine. Yes, there it is. Tidy, isn't it? Well, it's not so much tidy as just it's a plastic cover over everything, so you can't really tell really what's going on. Yeah, wonder how much power it produces. You see, when this car was new, I would have thought, oh yes, 2.4 litre V6. That's going to be a monster. I need to find out, really.
The throttle is very sensitive. Put a van in a way.
Well, right, we haven't got out of the yard yet, and I can tell you that the steering is nice and light, and the gear change is nice and light, and just a bit on the baggy side.
A bit baggy, yeah. And sometimes it needs a bit of persuasion to get into reverse.
Oh, one of those. But I can assume that it's being an... Oh, look who's here. An Audi. Do you know what? I can already see why I like it, because it just feels like a lovely big old barge, doesn't it?
That's exactly what it is.
It's not massively different to driving something like a 75, dare I say it, except with fewer knocks going on. I might say. Can't have any knocks going on in the suspension, and this is supposed to be a shed.
Yeah, well, as I say, a drive shaft definitely needs sorting out at some point. And you will hear some raspiness and possible little knocks from the exhaust. Gives it a nice rasp.
170 horsepower. It doesn't feel slow, but it doesn't feel rapid either.
No, we've already lost about 10 miles of range with you just doing that. It's so thirsty.
On such a premium car, it must have a dual mass flywheel. Then when going from one gear to the next, it does have a bit of a like that.
Yep.
Let's do that again. Now we've got a second gear. I wonder if all Audis are like that.
It can be. It's, you know, if you're gentle with it, it actually drives really smoothly.
I am generally quite gentle with cars.
Yeah. apart from when you're not.
You know, my reputation is uncalled for. Let's go through that amber line.
Why not?
Because I was expecting the car behind me to go through it. And we are in an Audi after all.
Yeah. I mean, it's like your own rules, isn't it?
And this is the point where we find out that 2.4 litre engine does actually still deliver some power enough. And what is the purpose of the four-wheel drive as well? You can tell me that in 1 second. Just a little bit of foot down. Third gear, that's where you want it, isn't it?
Yeah. Well,
oh, yes.
as a comparison with the Quattro, and it seems to be every bit as good, if not better, the four-wheel drive system on this.
It has got
for Quattro.
Nice fruitiness to the exhaust. It's very muted, but it's definitely there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Definitely a nice, like, kind of V6 soaring sound.
Yeah.
Faintly in the distance. Covered up very nicely with all the plastic bits on the bonnet to make it not so naughty. But it just pokes out the back and you can just hear it behind you.
Yeah.
That's when Audi were doing things properly at this time. And then, of course, they decided, well, there are a lot of younger people knocking about that don't really like to drive properly, and they're going to need some assistance. So we need all sorts of gadgetry on the go to make sure that when they crash, it's somebody else that gets hurt, not them.
Absolutely.
And that's where the Audi ownership changed from lovely, gentle people into thugs. Did I put enough emphasis on that?
Right, thugs!
I bet he's an Audi driver.
It's pretty good on the roundabouts, isn't it?
It is, it does. It's very... Now, I'm going to say, actually, it does pick up quite nicely. It picks up in a rather effortless fashion. I like this more than I was expecting. And I drove the diesel version of this
I remember
last
it, yeah.
year. And I was expecting to like it for the same reason as I do like this one. But this one, with its petrol engine, no doubt you'll probably
And it's Quattro.
And it's Quattro, yeah. No doubt you'll get about 20 miles per gallon.
If that. I mean, it's. I mean, if it was to have a drinking competition with a KV6, it'd win hands down.
Would it?
Well, with the state it is at the moment, yeah. I mean, that's even with the manual box as well.
Oh gosh. Well, I'm sorry I've cost you so much going around today.
Yeah, we've definitely lost a bit of range there.
Where's the range thing?
It's just there.
90 miles.
90 miles we've got. It'll probably be like 60 by the time we get back.
No, it won't. If I drive it gently now, I can improve it all the time.
You don't have to drive it gently.
Well, it's an Audi. You don't know how to drive it gently.
No.
But I would say, actually,
I drive it a lot more gently than I drive with 75.
I've always seen Audis of this particular era to be a bit on the dull side. They're made for people who were dull. So a normal person like me, if you want to consider it, would get bored. And that's why they made it so big. So on your epic journey of about 15 miles, you could just put the back seats down and have yourself a nap. But it's not. It's actually quite a likeable car. So I retract some of my words about Audis. No, I'm not going to bother doing that. You think it does?
Yeah.
Have you not tried it yet?
Well, it's managed to miss the windscreen. So that's all I use it for.
Yeah, but it's cold. It's like hot now, isn't it? So this isn't even switched on.
Nope. It's normally off, isn't it? So
why is it normally off?
Because
you still want it at 22 degrees even when it's like this.
No, that's from ages ago.
So you're a man that just doesn't mess with buttons at all.
I don't mess with them at all. So.
Yeah. Wow. I thought you'd been wanting to know all about it, how it all works and everything.
Well, it's just, as I say, it's just a shed. It doesn't go on particularly long journeys. The furthest it's been in my ownership is driving it to Sheffield and back.